This is CBC Here and Now.
Well, the four Atlantic premiers have been discussing the Atlantic bubble, or bubble-ish, bubble 2.0, I suppose, for a while now. I think this is a good step forward towards July 1st, and when we welcome the rest of Canada to Newfoundland and Labrador.
A version of the Atlantic bubble is back next week.
But it's different than last year as rules vary from one Atlantic province to the next.
Clothing company in downtown St. John's was forced to change its name after getting a letter from a massive UK company.
I'm a little store in the middle of the North Atlantic, and I am absolutely no threat.
I'm Jeremy Eaton, and I'll have that story coming up on Here and Now.
It's left a tropical storm. Bill will head our way as we head through the day tomorrow.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Anthony Germain.
And I'm Peter Cowan. Coming up, I'll speak with the medical officer of health about the latest on the COVID-19 cluster on the West Coast. But first, our top story.
Well, today was supposed to be decision day for the Terra Nova, but as of this moment, there's no word from the lead oil company on the fate of the oil field. Here Now's Terry Roberts has been following this story today, and now he joins us live outside Suncor's offices here in St. John's. So Terry, what do we know at this hour?
Well, Anthony, I'm safe to say that I've probably checked my phone about 1,000 times in the last hour or so, just waiting for word from Suncor Energy out of Calgary. Today was supposed to be decision day, what CEO Mark Little called a brick wall day for the Terra Nova. Will the partners in Terra Nova invest in a life extension for the oil field, which would lead to 10 more years of production and sustain that roughly 1,000 jobs that were linked to the oil field back when it last produced oil back in 2019? Or, in a worst case scenario, would the companies proceed to abandonment and decommissioning of the oil field? So that's where it stands right now. We have not heard from the companies right now. I did get an acknowledgement today that when a decision is made, that we will receive word that there will be a release go out to the media. But right now, that's all in, sources are telling me that there's talks ongoing, very delicate talks ongoing in Calgary, and that that could go on for many more hours. So as we all know, that's been creating a lot of tension and uneasiness in this province. There are many, many families who are really on edge now about this situation. As we know, we had a rally yesterday outside the Confederation building. Dozens of oil workers, many of them without a job right now, and their supporters rallying, trying to encourage the oil companies and the provincial government to find some way forward for the Terra Nova oil field. But right now, that's where we are. We have no real firm indication right now of what's happening. The Suncor offices behind me, as of March, there were about 300 Suncor employees onshore based. Many of them were in this building here behind me, so their future is still unknown.
All right, Terry, looking at the images from yesterday outside the Confederation building, today in the legislature, this came up again. What are the politicians saying now?
Yeah, well, the Liberals are once again challenged today as to why they were not willing to take an equity stake into the Terra Nova oil field, which the companies had asked them to do. And once again, politicians said, look, just too risky for a field that's 85% depleted, too many financial risks for a province that's already facing a crisis. But we did learn today that the province has sent a letter off to Suncor and its partners, and reaffirming that the deal to give them $200 million plus cash from that oil recovery fund still on the table. Royalty relief that would help them keep about $300 million during the next decade of production, still on the table. So $500 million still on the table for those oil companies if they could reach a deal. So just listen to what the Premier said outside today to reporters and what the Energy Minister said inside the legislature.
There's incredible value still out there. And as I said yesterday, and will continue to say, this is not about profitability, it's about risk. And it's about our assumption of risk given the current state of affairs in Newfoundland and Labrador and the fiscal capacity and the fiscal flexibility should the risk not materialize in our favor. And that's where private sector really plays a serious role. We have been there to support with $500 million, and we will honor that. And we really hope that the private sector can straighten out the misalignment that exists amongst that project right now.
We have made our position clear to the companies. We feel that this could be a beneficial deal for them with the money we have put on the table. We feel that the jobs should stay here, but we also believe that these multinational, profitable companies, one of which made over $250 million just in the first quarter, we feel that there's more that they can do.
We did learn one more thing today, one more new thing, and that's a new term called royalty carryback. We learned that when the Terra Nova project was sanctioned way back in the 1990s, there was a clause in there that allowed the province, the provincial government, to take an advance on royalties from oil produced in our offshore. Now, when a decision is made to abandon the Terra Nova field and decommission it, we have to return that money to the oil companies. And Andrew Parsons said today, that's $150 million that the province will have to pay back that it received in an advance on royalties. So once again, more reason to be concerned about the future of the Terra Nova. Reporting live for Here and Now, I'm Terry Roberts in St. John's.
Well, turning now to our daily COVID update, there are 2 new cases to report in the province today. One is a man in the Labrador-Grenfell Health region. That case is related to travel within Canada. The other is a woman in the Western region. She's a contact of a previous case and is connected to the cluster in that area. There are 41 active cases of COVID-19 in the province right now.
Well, COVID-related, the Atlantic bubble is back next week, kind of. The province is going to allow travelers from the rest of Atlantic Canada beginning a week from tomorrow. But unlike last year, the rules vary from one Atlantic province to the next. Here now's Mark Quinn reports on the plan for our province.
Health officials say COVID-19 case numbers remain low and vaccination rates continue to rise. And that means residents from all parts of Atlantic Canada are welcome in Newfoundland and Labrador as of Wednesday, June 23rd, without having to test or self-isolate. Andrew Furey said the change was proposed by Nova Scotia's Premier.
Given the fact that Nova Scotia's numbers are going down, Premier Rankin really wanted to kind of proceed with a more collective approach before reopening to Canada, and we're certainly happy to oblige given the epidemiology in their jurisdiction and ours, and Premier King was much along the same line. So I think this is a good step forward towards July 1st and when we welcome the rest of Canada to Newfoundland and Labrador.
Visitors from other Canadian provinces and territories will be allowed in as of July 1st if case numbers remain low. The health minister says we're already entering a transition phase and have begun lifting restrictions to get ready for that.
The things that will change are the size of outdoor formal gatherings, the size of outdoor personal gatherings, a start of return to people going back into their offices, return to work plans, and outdoor tournaments are allowed.
Haggie also said that because tens of thousands of doses of vaccine are expected in the coming weeks, the percentage of people with 2 doses is expected to increase significantly.
Given the Moderna that we are expecting over this week and next, and the extra that was announced, we feel we could be at about 50% of the population of the province with the 2nd dose before the end of July.
Haggie said right now more than 73% of Newfoundland and Labrador's eligible population have at least 1 dose of vaccine, and about 5% have received 2. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Now, as mentioned, this version of the Atlantic bubble is a little more complicated since each province has different rules on when they're joining and who can travel. Nova Scotia, for instance, is reopening with the same date and rules as this province. New Brunswick, though, is opening earlier. It will reopen to people from here tonight at midnight, but it still won't let most Nova Scotians in. Prince Edward Island is the last to join the bubble, reopening on June 27th, but you'll need to have at least 1 dose of the vaccine to be allowed in.
Another beautiful day for eastern parts of the province today. Let's take a look at the weather systems across the board. We've got an area of high pressure to the south, and then we do have some rain on the way, or at least happening now for parts of Labrador. That is going to continue through most of the night tonight. If I zoom in, though, you can see even though we saw some clear skies to the east, that fog just offshore, and that will continue generally as we head through the night tonight. And then we keep our eye on that area of low pressure to the south there, which is now Tropical Storm Bill. That formed south of Nova Scotia last night, and it's moving fairly quickly, 61 kilometers per hour. That's got its eyes set on us as we head through the day tomorrow. Those winds you see there, 85 kilometers per hour. The strongest wind should stay offshore tomorrow. We will see some gusty winds with this, as well as some tropical moisture, so it's certainly going to feel muggy tomorrow as well, but I will get in all the details when I come back.
I want to return now to the House of Assembly. How politicians behave is being scrutinized, with both the Liberals and the PCs accusing each other of not behaving. Well, during the debate, the PCs accused the Premier of negotiating in secret over that Terra Nova deal that Terry was talking about, and then the Premier shot back with this.
I'm not sure the member opposite understands an NDA and perhaps can't even spell NDA, Mr. Speaker.
Well, after that comment, the PCs demanded an apology. The Liberal Party fired back on Twitter with a clip of PC MHA Jeff Dwyer saying in the House that he was dumbing it down for the Liberals to understand. The Speaker of the House had to remind everyone today about the importance of civility before things got started.
Language and tone used in debate matter. That is, I see no reason why principles of respect and civility should not apply to debate in this chamber. I ask all honourable members to examine the language they use in the House and to ensure that it is temperate, appropriate, and respectful.
Well, the Premier said he is examining his own language and agreed he could do better. He blamed his inexperience as a politician.
Sometimes I bite on bait, and you know, I recognize that in this office that deserves better, and I think that I've handled the decorum in the House professionally, save yesterday. It was one little comment. And you can't forget, I'm still on a learning curve in this. A year ago today, I was still in the operating room. So I'm still learning myself as well.
Well, Next Clothing Company has been on Water Street in downtown St. John's without any issues for more than 24 years. Until now, the business recently faced legal threats from a major UK retailer. Unable to take on a billion-dollar clothing company, the St. John's store decided it must get a new name. Here now is Jeremy Eaton with that story.
What's in a name? Well, a lot, apparently, especially if you're a small boutique clothing store that shares the same name as a massive international brand. Next, a UK-based department store with more than 700 stores worldwide, has been keeping a close eye on this 1,000-square-foot shop in downtown St. John's. For 22 years, owner Gail Decker had no problem sharing the name, but 2 years ago, the retail giant shut down her social media sites.
We were notified that Next in the UK wanted us to change our name. So we made a deal and we took the T off it of our Facebook page, but that was rectified and we carried on as Next.
Then the pandemic hit. To survive, Decker started selling her clothes online. 2 weeks ago, any online presence using the name Next was gone, like clothes from her sales rack.
Our Shopify online store was taken off, and we were notified that the Next in UK was allegedly charging us with an infringement of their trademark.
Decker reached out to Next in the UK, a store with more than 44,000 employees that's already generated the equivalent of more than 6 billion Canadian dollars in revenue this year alone.
I'm a little store in the middle of the North Atlantic, and I am absolutely no threat.
Decker sought legal advice before ultimately cutting her losses and changing the name. Now, Next is Gail's Clothing Company.
Every name I tried was already used, and I wasn't willing to take that chance again. And this is probably the easiest transition for our customers. I think a lot of people know that I'm Gail, and I was trying to make it simple.
With her online presence MIA, Decker feared customers might think she closed. A kiss of death for a small business owner. Thankfully, the longtime entrepreneur has strong community support and has no plans of going anywhere.
People have dropped in. They're all very supportive. And I'm actually shocked at the way people have come down and let us know that they're going to support us no matter what name we have.
The next step in the store's transformation is the new sign with the new name, something Decker's hoping to have very soon. Jeremy Eaton, CBC News, St. John's.
Speaking of St. John's Days have been discontinued. City Council is encouraging people to mark National Indigenous Peoples Day instead. St. John's Days were traditionally celebrated in late June and typically coincided with the provincial holiday, formerly known as Discovery Day. The holiday was always closely associated with John Cabot's Landing in Newfoundland. St. John's Mayor Danny Breen says there is a contradiction holding celebrations for Indigenous peoples and a colonial holiday at the same time. Council and the province voted to no longer recognize the name Discovery Day. Breen says changing the name of a holiday is an important step towards reconciliation.
Now to some other news. Two good girls were getting much attention at the RNC headquarters in St. John's today.
Yep, while one traded patrols for snuggles and retired, the other officially became the newest four-legged member of the police force. With just 3 years in service, police dog Dally retired today after a sudden illness and that it paralyzed her back legs and ended her career. She'll get to relax in retirement. RNC dog handler Pat McDonald now has a new furry partner.
So who will help sniff out potential explosives now? Police dog Seaforce was officially sworn in today. After Dally, Seaforce is only the second female police dog in RNC history.
Seaforce has a super personality, and she is very friendly and has the ability to become extremely focused on commands by her handler, Constable McDonald.
But much of the work that they do is to make sure that when young persons go missing, when we have persons with dementia and Alzheimer's in our community that wander about in our community, and literally moments sometimes are critical, minutes are critical to make sure that we find persons.
It's a lovely dry evening tonight, but as we head through the day tomorrow night's going to feel very muggy, especially in eastern parts of Newfoundland. I'll get into all the details when I come back after the break.
We believe that if there was one bar on George Street, no one would go. So the more activity, the better it is for everybody.
A prime property at the center of Quidi Vidi Village is getting a major makeover.
Chrissy Holmes from the St. John's Morning Show on CBC Radio talks to developer Mark Dobbin about the future of the Flake House. That's just after the weather. There are many fragile rivers in Newfoundland and Labrador where there are easy places to catch fish, salmon. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. Tomorrow on the program, a special investigative report about salmon poaching on the West Coast.
This weather update is brought to you by Newfoundland and Labrador Tourism. It's time to explore the Great Wide Open. Plan your trip at yourbackyardbeckons.ca.
Well, for those of us in St. John's and on the Avalon, a beautiful day today, kind of a sweet, sunny day. And I hope you got out there to enjoy it because, well, as we say, nothing lasts forever. Ashley, looks nice and sunny where you are right now.
It is a beautiful evening. I'm under the shade right now, so it's feeling a little chilly because the temperatures today only reaching the teens, 13 degrees here in St. John's. Let's take a look at those temperatures across the board. But if you were in the sun, it felt glorious. Temperatures much warmer, though, as we head towards Terra Nova at 19 degrees, 21 in Gander. Another nice day in Corner Brook as well as Stephenville, anywhere from 17 to 19 degrees. And then temperatures a little cooler today in Lab City, only reaching a high near 14 degrees, which is still nice for this time of year. And you're sitting there, lost a degree or two here and there, but overall still sitting at about 13 degrees for Lab City, and temperatures still in the 20s for central Newfoundland. Same thing for Twillingate. That's where you're sitting right now. So a beautiful evening. We did see lots of fog, though, just off the coast there. You can see it on eastern areas as well as southern areas of the island. And then plenty of cloud cover up across Labrador, and that's ahead of our next weather maker, which is actually prompting a wreck house wind warning as well. So southeasterly winds tomorrow morning expected anywhere from around 100 kilometers per hour in the wreck house area. And those winds, like I said, will develop as we head through the morning. Otherwise, it's going to be a fairly quiet night for most of the island. We will see those fog patches develop, certainly along the southern shore, as well as eastern areas of the island, particularly the Avalon. A few showers possible for the western portion of the island as well, but it will be rain or showers, the story across most of Labrador as we head into the morning hours. Some periods of rain, which may be heavy at times as well. And we'll see the showers and or drizzle develop ahead of our next weather maker, which will be tropical, or the remnants of what is Tropical Storm Bill right now, and that will move in as we head towards the early morning hours on Wednesday. Tonight's forecast, anywhere from 6 to 10 degrees. We'll say goodbye to that risk of frost for the most part right now. Those southeasterly winds anywhere from 40 to 50 kilometers per hour. Double-digit lows tonight for Happy Valley Goose Bay at 11 degrees and 10 for Cartwright. And again, you'll see that those periods of rain. Now, tomorrow the rain will continue. That area of low pressure to the north is actually going to, the weakening system, the tropical storm, will move over or will transition through to extratropical. And that just simply means that you're going to see, we're going to lose the characteristics of a tropical storm, and it will essentially be a weakening low pressure system. So that area of low pressure to the north will envelop that tomorrow, but we will see some humidity as we head through the afternoon and evening hours. That's when most of that tropical moisture is going to move in, certainly for eastern areas of the island. And that's when we're going to see that risk of some heavier rain as well. Now, in the first half of the day, for eastern areas anyway, there's a good chance we can see the potential for a few thunderstorms as well. So certainly keep that in mind for tomorrow. As far as precipitation goes, we're looking at about 20 to 30 millimeters for most of Labrador, and then some pockets of 20 to 30 millimeters for parts of eastern Newfoundland in some of that heavier rain as well. So like I said, it's going to feel humid tomorrow for most of eastern Newfoundland. Temperature's not overly warm though, 14 to 16 degrees. The heaviest wind should stay offshore, but we could see some southerly gusts anywhere from 60 to 80 kilometers per hour. Temperatures in the teens through central as well. Some showers or drizzle through the afternoon, and then maybe even a few peaks of sun as we head towards the west coast, although there is a good chance we'll see a few showers as well. The winds will be the strongest in the morning, and then they should ease off as we head through the evening hours. Tomorrow, temperatures in the teens for southeastern Labrador. Not a whole lot of wind to speak of, but then as we head towards the northern portion, you're going to see a few peaks of sun. 6 degrees for Nain, and the rest of Labrador into the low teens. So that's a look at tomorrow's forecast. We'll look ahead to the weekend when I come back.
If you haven't been to Quidi Vidi Village in a while, well, here's the update. A lot has happened with this prime piece of property right in the middle. And by the sounds of it, a lot more is about to happen. We've got the developer, Mark Dobbin, here to tell us more. Good morning.
Good morning.
Mark, this is massive piece of property. It is huge. What it's gone into just getting it to this place?
Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? We've been working on this for a number of years now. First of all, we assembled the land. We bought 2 separate pieces of land. Then we had to work with various levels of government to get the water rights. Then we had to get the building permits. We had, as you know, a little bit of bureaucracy we had to work our way through, but we've gotten through it. The city staff have been absolutely wonderful to work with on this project, and now we are at the stage where we're going to have some commercial activity here. So we're planning to have an outdoor restaurant here. We're going to be operating it on behalf of Business and Arts, Newfoundland and Labrador. So we'll be selling land wash beer, we'll have a tent, we'll have 3 or 4 food trucks, we'll have picnic tables, we're going to resurface this so it's pedestrian friendly. We're really looking forward to a great summer down here. We have bus service we operated a couple of years ago called the Hop On, Hop Off bus. So we still have those vehicles, we have drivers, so we're going to be operating a free shuttle service to the bus turnaround behind me. There's a little bridge that people then can come over and they can enter the village. It'll be free to everybody, so we think we'll actually reduce the vehicular traffic down here.
Quidi Vidi Brewery is right behind you, Land Wash, you know, right away people are going, aren't these 2 competing breweries? Is that an issue? Have you heard anything about it just yet?
Well, first of all, Quidi Vidi Brewery submitted a letter in support of this endeavor. I think rising tide lifts all boats in this industry. Todd Perrin at Mallard Cottage is very supportive as well. We believe that, you know, if there was one bar on George Street, no one would go. So, the more activity, the better it is for everybody. Always loved this area, and I think has been for quite a long time now an underutilized asset for the people of the city. We're going to create a significant number of jobs down here. It'll be a destination for tourism when tourism comes back, hopefully this summer and beyond. So we have a vision for the long term, not just having an outdoor restaurant, but we'd like it as much as possible to look the way it used to in the old days, with a number of different outbuildings and different commercial activities, and making it just a great place to come down. You know, there's still the possibility of someone trying to stop it. It's impossible for them to stop it, I believe, but it's possible they could delay us by a couple of weeks. Absent any further administrative delays, we'd like to be up and going around Canada Day, maybe a few days before, maybe a few days after. The team that I work with has put an incredible amount of energy into this. It's been a very expensive endeavor. We've been at it a very long time with zero revenue, nothing but costs going out. And to come down and see families enjoying it, being an asset for the city, it's going to be very rewarding, I believe.
Last year here at Kings Point outside the shop, people were lined up here because of the pandemic. They couldn't have anybody inside in large numbers buying things.
A lot of people didn't like that initially, so people would stand in line and then they would just leave.
How has the pandemic changed here? That's coming up. Welcome back to Here and Now. Well, the last time I was here in Kings Point, there were people lined up here, customers, because they weren't allowed to actually go into this shop because of the pandemic. Joining me now is the co-owner of the store, David Hayashida. So David, tell me, what was it like during the early phase of the pandemic?
They were pretty dicey. I think we weren't really sure what to expect like everybody else. And so I thought, well, maybe we'll do like 25% of a regular year. And it really was slow until we got into, say, towards the end of July. And then August was actually much better than expected, and there was a little bit in the fall. So we probably ended up to be maybe about 65% of a regular year. So in the scheme of things, you would say good for a bad situation.
So as I mentioned, David, last time I was here, there were people lined up out here because they weren't all allowed into your shop. How did things change as the pandemic unwound?
We always required a mask and the social distancing thing, so that was a little bit tricky for people to get used to. A lot of people just kept wanting to come in. So we did do one bubble group at a time, and a lot of people didn't like that initially, so people would stand in line and then they would just leave.
Right.
So it was frustrating for all of us because we wanted to keep the customers safe and our staff safe. But of course, as it went along, people did get more accustomed to the 6-foot distance and all that and the mask. So it got a little bit smoother as things went along. Now this year, of course, everybody's got their fingers crossed because it sounds like things are going to open up come July. So people are more comfortable and more careful. So it's getting a bit smoother, but still, with the level 4s and other things that have been happening, it has been slow.
But I gather for a business like yours, we hear so much about how important tourists are, especially tourists from Ontario. What kind of summer are you kind of forecasting, given still, the question marks about traveling from the mainland to Newfoundland, the island?
Yeah, it's, I don't know if we've done the right thing because we've probably ordered more things from more handmade producers than we ever had, so our selection is huge. And yet, on the other hand, our key market is the people from away. So we're kind of hedging our bets there and hoping, that some of those people will show up. And then we were pleasantly surprised last summer with the number of people who had never been to Kings Point from the province that showed up. And, they had a positive experience from just the one room that we were showing because usually, as you know, there's 3 spaces to work with. So we had 20% space last year. This year we've got 100% space. So fingers crossed.
All right. Like many businesses, I think you attempted to appeal to people with an online shopping experience, whatever that means.
Yes, and we've been trying to develop that for a lot of years, but it really wasn't much last year. I knew quite a number of producers that did get their online shop going last year, but usually it's still less than 10% for most businesses. And we've been hard at it to get ready for this summer. And there's still been glitches, so we're probably still a few weeks behind where we thought we'd be because we thought we'd be 100%, just push the button and away you go.
David, in St. John's, people in different business were saying, high-end jewelry, high-end automobiles, that people had parked their money because they weren't traveling. Any sense that people were buying maybe higher-end art items than before?
That's hard to say. We did hear that. There was a number of people saying, oh, you're not going to have any problem moving some of the higher priced artwork, but we just found it was somewhat similar. So it does happen that there's the odd person that comes in and doesn't look at it, any of the price tags and says I'll take it, but that's still a small number in total.
Well, let's hope that this year brings better things and better business and more travelers. Thanks a lot for your time.
Oh, pleasure. Thank you.
We continue to see new COVID-19 cases popping up on the West Coast. There was another case announced today, meaning there are now 42 cases in the cluster in that area. But yesterday we had another 4 people under 20 test positive, not connected with the cluster. So what exactly is happening there? Well, Dr. Monica Dutt is the medical officer of health for the area. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Let's start with the cluster. We're continuing to see cases there. Where are they coming from?
So anyone who we say is connected with the cluster who may come back positive now is typically someone we've already identified. So throughout the investigation, we would figure out who might be contacts of someone who is a positive, who has been positive, and those people are quarantining for 14 days. They do get tested throughout that 14 days, twice usually. They develop symptoms, we test them again. And so you may see, and it's quite expected to see, people who may be positive up to 2 weeks later. And so we have seen some of that. So people shouldn't be surprised when they do see that there may be additional cases. We're coming to the end of that time, so we should not see very many now that are connected to the cluster, but it still can happen.
I want to ask you about the cases announced yesterday. We saw 4 young people not connected with the cluster getting infected. So what's happening there?
So I won't speak to any individual situation because typically if there's no impact, say on a school or a community more broadly, we don't put out information about that specific individual because it's just like they have a diagnosis, they're at home, they need to take care of themselves. There's no broader implication. So there's nothing that needs to be said more broadly. Usually, again, I'm speaking more broadly, what might happen in this type of situation is that people were identified as a household member of someone who might be positive. They were advised to quarantine, so they were already at home. They get tested again, the first test and later on, and then they may come back positive. So that happens both in this larger cluster that we've been following, as well as in general. We do still occasionally see people in other situations who may test positive. Typically there's a connection to travel, and then their family members may be close contacts, and some of those may be younger people who get tested and then become positive.
With young people, though, are we seeing any evidence that there's been transmission within schools?
So with the recent individuals, there was no connection to schools, and anything that's happened in the last few weeks where there was any kind of connection to a school, we did do communication with schools, and we did do follow-up testing and contact tracing. And so in recent situations, there has been some transmission within a school, and people were made aware of that. But beyond that, it was a very small number of people, and the vast majority, there's been no transmission to staff in schools or to other students within the school.
With continuing to see cases on the West Coast, all the areas are back to alert level 2. Why do you feel it's safe to be able to be back at that level when we are continuing to see cases?
So the alert level is put in place that was increased to level 4 for a whole range of different reasons. In this situation, initially, there was concern because we couldn't identify the initial source, how the person had acquired the infection in the first place. There were a number of contacts who were being named. It did seem like it was across a few different communities. But then as we've moved through the investigation, although we still haven't definitively identified how the infection started, kind of where the source, where the infection was acquired, we do feel like now we have a good sense of who the people are positive are, who their contacts are. We've been able to kind of put a circle around that group in terms of following up with them. And so we weren't seeing that ongoing transmission or the ongoing risk in the community. There still are a few pieces to the investigation that we're going through, but given what we've seen over the last 2 weeks, I think we're in a much better place now than we were 2 weeks ago.
Dr. Dutt, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
The Green Report said Newfoundland and Labrador needs more people to study science and technology. Well, that's become a lot easier for one person on the West Coast. Grade 12 student Madison Lazaga has received a $25,000 scholarship. She's going to head to Memorial University in the fall, where she plans to study medicine. Her long-term goal is a medical career. Well, tonight we've reached her at her home in Stephenville. Thanks for joining us, Madison.
Thank you so much.
So $25,000, what does that sort of a scholarship mean for you in your education?
I mean, it really is huge, like financially, just saying that. It takes so much pressure off. Like, you're not as stressed about the money. You can really focus on the learning and the experience, but actually just, you know, receiving that award, you've worked so hard. It's really crazy to have that recognized on a national level.
It must have been a relief then for your parents when they found out that you were going to be getting that sort of financial help for your schooling.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
And so I mentioned that you want to go into medicine. Why is that the field that you want to study?
I mean, for me, I've always been interested, like, all areas of science, biology, chemistry, physics, psychology. So for me, medicine is really interdisciplinary. Like, it incorporates all of that. But of course, at the core, no matter what I wanted to do, I wanted to help people. And I think, you know, growing up in rural Newfoundland, you've definitely seen the need for those family doctors and such. So of course, medicine became the goal.
You're a member of the Halibut First Nation. We know that traditionally Indigenous people are underrepresented in fields like medicine. So why was it important for you to study that field?
Well, yeah, speaking in my own experience, wanting to be in that field is kind of intimidating and isolating when you don't see a lot of people like you. And not speaking as a student, but just, you know, a person who needs healthcare, it's really important to see those people that you're comfortable with and, you know, understand your issues. So wanting to be, you know, a female Indigenous doctor, you want the people you're working with to be comfortable with you and recognize and know that you'll understand their needs.
And what sort of difference do you think it will make to have someone like yourself, you know, after you still got a lot of years of schooling, but when you sort of come out the other side, to have someone who has that experience and that background serving people in this province?
Well, just speaking to the whole like issue with doctors in the province right now, like I know when there's such issues like keeping those doctors, when you have doctors from those backgrounds who've grown up seeing these issues, they want to stay there. They're dedicated to those small communities and their stories. And of course, stereotypically in Indigenous communities, you hear more about mental health issues and addictions issues. I think having that sort of personal connections with those communities helps you see past those kinds of things, and it makes it more important to you personally. You can have those empathetic connections and such.
Well, again, congratulations on the scholarship, and good luck with school in the fall.
Thank you so much.
Well, staying with impressive students, Rebecca Blake is learning how to speak French, but says she'd rather keep taking Inuktitut. Now, Blake had to switch language classes when she moved from Rigolette to Happy Valley Goose Bay. Leading up to National Indigenous Peoples Day, which is Monday, we've been sharing videos from the Labrador Friendship Centre and the SHIELD Project. Well, here's Rebecca with a language lesson.
Hi, my name's Rebecca Blake. I'm from a small community on the north coast of Labrador called Rigolette. In our schools, we learn the language Inuktitut. Now, Rigolette is different to the other northern communities because we have a different dialect. It's something of our own. So caribou, which is tuk-tuk, would be spelt like T-U-T-T-U-K would be their dialect, while Rigolettes would be T-U-K-T-U-K. So tuk-tuk, tuk-tuk. It sounds the same, but just different spelling. I learned a few other animals too in Rigolette. I learned Nanook, which is polar bear, spelt like this. And then Siksik, that means squirrel. I love to learn the language because it's a part of who I am and my culture. Now, I learned this for 7 years, so I kind of got it down pat. But then when I moved here to Happy Valley Goose Bay, I'm in high school now, and they don't have a Inuktitut class, so I had to drop all this and go to French. Now, Inuktitut and French are two totally different languages. I mean, here's goodbye in Inuktitut, Uksanai. And this is goodbye in French, au revoir. I really wish I could learn Inuktitut in my school. French doesn't really have the same connection to me as Inuktitut does. Inuktitut just makes me feel closer to home and more connected with my community. And the language is almost lost because of residential schools. Inuit children were taken and forced to forget their culture and learn English. I would love to continue to speak Inuktitut to keep that culture alive because it's a part of who I am and where I came from. Thanks for listening.
Well, tomorrow's going to feel a little humid, certainly as the day goes on. Looks like some of that humidity is going to stick around as we head through the day on Thursday. Also, some warmer temperatures with that. Let's take a look at the future tracker. We're also looking at the chance of a few showers through the first half of the day, and then we should actually see some clearing skies as the day goes on for most of the island. And then across Labrador, you're looking at the showers continuing, bringing those accumulations, like I said a little bit earlier, about 20 to 30 millimeters of rain expected by the time Friday morning rolls around. As we head through the day on Friday, it looks like it will stay generally nice. We will see a few showers move into the evening hours for eastern areas and then continue through at least the first half of Saturday for the Avalon, with a few scattered showers expected across Labrador. Going to get more numerous as we head into Sunday morning. Temperatures, like I said, for tomorrow, or rather Thursday, looking beautiful. Back into the 20s for the most part for most of eastern through central as well as western Newfoundland. A little cooler along the south coast, 16 to 17 degrees. And then same thing for the northern peninsula. 10 to 14 degrees will be your afternoon highs on Thursday. Generally gray with that rain continuing across Labrador, and a little cooler for the northern portions. You're only going to see a high near 4 degrees on Thursday. For Friday, going to hang on to those temperatures into the 20s. Won't feel quite as muggy, but it'll still be a beautiful day. Looking at sunshine or a mix of sun and cloud through the afternoon. Maybe a few showers, though, lingering for southeastern Labrador. 16 to 17 degrees for you. And then Happy Valley, Goose Bay back up into the 20s to start off the weekend. 23 degrees, and then Nain back into those double digits at 12 degrees. Now for St. John's and eastern Newfoundland, as we head into the weekend, it is looking a little bit unsettled, certainly on Saturday. By Sunday through the morning, we should see a few showers and then some clearing skies, but temperatures will be back down into the teens. However, overnight lows will stay in the double digits, which will be nice. And then we're going to see a similar forecast for central Newfoundland, although Saturday looking beautiful with sunshine, and then a few showers possible on Sunday. Temperature around 24 degrees for until we head into the weekend. For western Newfoundland, you're looking at sunshine both Friday and Saturday, maybe a few showers on Sunday. Temperatures between 20 and 24 degrees. For eastern Labrador, you're looking at some sunshine as well. A few scattered showers expected both Saturday and Sunday, but temperatures in the 20s for you. A little cooler for western Labrador, although creeping towards the 20-degree mark. By Sunday, we're looking at a high of 19. I had to share this photo. Look at the puffin. This is on the Klondike Trail. Barry was hiking that earlier. He wanted to share that photo with us, and I wanted to share it with you. If you have any you'd like to send to me, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Thank you very much, Ashley. A university town in Nova Scotia is joining the race to become the first in Canada to reach net zero carbon emissions. More than 80% of the energy used in Antigonish already comes from renewable resources.
CBC's Kayla Hounsell went there to find out how they're doing it and how they hope to inspire others.
Well, this is the heat pump that we had installed.
Martin McLaren jumped at the chance when his town offered to help set up a greener source of heat.
Our house was heated with the electric heat, and it wasn't very efficient.
It's just one of the ways the town of Antigonish is trying to go green, 100%.
It's attainable, and we know it's attainable.
The mayor says right now 84% of Antigonish's energy is renewable. She admits her town has a head start because it has its own electric utility. It also owns a wind farm, which generates 40% of its power.
That's 40% we didn't have to buy off of another company. So that enables us to make sure that we're going green.
The town is also planning to install electric vehicle chargers and solar gardens. The mayor says all of it will not only help this community achieve emissions goals, but the entire province and the country.
One person can make a difference, one block can make a difference, one town can make a difference. We're not a very big town, but this is transformational.
The next move is targeting the biggest emissions producer here, St. Francis Xavier University.
We double the size of the Antigonish area when our students are back in town.
The university has already installed solar panels and geothermal heating in new buildings. The problem is its central heating plant.
We use a very dirty fuel source. It's run by bunker C oil, 2,500 vehicles off the street if we could get rid of it.
The plan is to build a new plant powered by the wind farm and hydroelectricity. Most of the plans help the pocketbook too. McLaren says his heat pump saved him $500 in the first 4 months.
I think it's a great thing, for the small town that we are to try to be leaders within our country.
There are other Canadian communities with similar goals. Antigonish is happy to be in the race and welcomes healthy competition for the greater good. Kayla Hounsel, CBC News, Antigonish, Nova Scotia.
Well, before we go for tonight, just want to let you know tomorrow we've got an interesting investigative story. We've received some surveillance video and photos in a anti-poaching operation on the Salmon River in the West Coast. We'll be bringing you that story tomorrow night.
That should be interesting. And tomorrow is also briefing day. That's right, it's COVID briefing time, and a bunch of topics that we're expecting to hear about. One, the Atlantic bubble, or I guess bubble-ish, as the Premier called it today.
He didn't say bubblicious, right? It came close to that.
But yeah, whatever we're calling it, it's going to mean travel between the Atlantic provinces, so we'll get a little more clarity on that. And I know one of the things that I hear from people a lot about is being able to move up your second dose appointments. Just today, actually, the province started reporting on their website the number of second doses. So we're starting to see those creep up. But I know a lot of people are chomping at the bit because they want to be able to move up their doses and get them a little bit sooner. We heard from the health minister today that he expects that half of people will have their second dose by the end of July. So some good news, but we'll need some more clarity on how that's going to happen.
All right, so tune in tomorrow. Good night.
Good night.